All right, with that said, study guide for test 1. I'm going to talk and ask you questions, and like I said, only write what we have to write down on the board. I do want you to take notes so that you have something to go back to and walk through, because I want you to take the study guide, work the problem out yourself, go back and look and see if it went with what we covered in class. Did you do exactly what we did in class? What steps did you miss? What did you skip? What did you forget? So that's what I want you to be able to do. All right, number 1 says evaluate. I'm going to read it and then we'll talk about what it means. It says, 1, given the function f of x is equal to 2x squared minus 3x minus 3, find f of negative 1. If you hear the word or see the word evaluate, it means to plug a number in. So tell me what number we're going to plug in. Okay, so f of anything could be p of, f of, t of, v of. It doesn't matter what letter of the alphabet they chose. We're going to plug negative 4 into that function. So everywhere there's an x, I'm going to put a negative 4. And then you should be using your calculator to do the math. And I need you to do that right now because you have to use your calculator. You cannot use your computer calculator. You cannot use your phone. So you have to have your calculator. So I need you to do this in your calculator now. You need to make sure you can get the right answer using your calculator because that's the one you're going to need to use on the test. I'm going to see what I get while I'm doing it up here while you're doing it on your calculator. Let's see. What'd you get? Did you get it on your calculator? You got to be able to get that answer on your calculator. Now, for test purposes, you're like, well, what if I put it all on the calculator and I don't show no work? It's up to you to tell me what you plugged in, and if you did a little bit of this showing of the work, thank you. If you did a little bit of this showing of the work, did I really need to show you these things right here? I know 2 times 16 is 32. Did we really have to show you that? Not necessarily. Totally up to you. If you want to show me some of this work on the paper, that's fine. But if you say on your test paper, again, remember I'm looking at your scratch paper. If you say I put all of this in the calculator and that's the answer I got, fine. I just want to know that you knew to plug that number in. Because some people are going to be like, I don't know what to do with that negative 4. So I'm looking to see that you at least typed this on your paper. So I know what you plugged into the calculator. Now, if it don't come out the right answer and you plug this into the calculator, what does that mean? You didn't put it in the calculator right. If you got this answer, if you got all of this written up here and you don't get the right answer, you didn't put it in the calculator right. So that's why I want you to practice now. See if you can get it right in your calculator right now. So how many got it in their calculator and you were good? And remember, my preference is you use your calculator that you can see what you typed. And even when you hit enter, you can still see what you typed in the answer on the screen. That's the preferred calculator that you should use. Still ain't gonna cost you no more than 20 bucks, but just that's what you should be looking at. Now, it ain't that you gotta go get it. I'm just saying it's nice to see what I typed on the screen just in case I make a mistake. All right, number 2. Determine whether or not the relationship shown in the table is a function. It says, does the table define y as a function of x? It wants to know, is this a function? No. Okay, I heard both yes and no. What should you be looking at to determine if it's a function? If all the x values or the input, are they all different? Are they? Yes. Yes, so it's a function. So what would I expect you to write on the paper to let me know you knew the answer? Yes. All the x values are different.
And the y values, right?
We don't care about what the y values. All the y values could be the same. They could be 0. They could be anything they want to be.
So all the x's.
All the input values have to be different. That's all I would expect you to write. X values are all different. Inputs are all different. Something like that, good enough for me. Tell me why you picked the answer you picked. Because there's no other work for that problem. Number 3, decide whether or not the set of ordered pairs defines a function. Is that a function?
Yes.
Why?
All the x values are different.
All the x values are all different. Okay. Number 4, decide whether or not the equation defines y as a function of x. It's still saying, is this a function? This particular type of problem, we haven't talked about quadratic equations enough for you to know for sure what that shape is. You need Desmos for that question.
Oh, I was wondering because I got a question.
So on your notes, you should be writing, type in Desmos, and then what? What should you do after you type that equation? See if it passes the vertical line test. That's all you got to do. So for the answer for that, you would be like, hey, it passed the vertical line test. So what's the shape of this one going to look like? Number 4 is going to look like that. Does that pass the vertical line test?
Yes.
This shape right here, that's what that's going to look like when you type it in. That's what's going to look like this.
Yes.
And it does pass the vertical line test. All you're going to draw is one vertical line. Does it touch it? How many times can it touch it to pass? Once. Alrighty. Questions? Number 5. Is it a function? It says decide if the function is linear. It is a function, but now the question is it linear? Meaning, does it look like a straight line?
No, it goes this way. Is that Desmos as well?
You would end up using, because you don't know the x to the second power yet, because I haven't taught that part to you, because we still dealing with linear. So this would be type in Desmos and see if it looks like a straight line. Does it look like a straight line when you type it in? Nope, it's going to look like this. So no, the shape is a U shape and it's not linear. Does not look like a straight line. Number 6, find the slope of the line if it exists and the y-intercept if it exists. Here's the equation. Y equals 9x plus 8. What's the slope? 9. What's the y-intercept? 8. Okay, let me ask you a question. What if I have that same kind of question on the test and I wrote this? 4. What's the slope? 4. And what's the y-intercept? Aha! So could I switch it around and expect you to remember that this is still y equals mx plus b, right? Yes. Don't assume I'm going to write it all cute and nice for you like that. You understand? Hello. You were signing in? There we go. All righty. You okay with that? Okay, so just look to see where the x is and don't always have to be in the front like you expect it to be. Can I tell what the slope is if it's not in y equals mx plus b form? Say no. No, I got to get the y by itself before you can tell me what the slope is. Okay, so you said this one, you gave me the right answer for that one. That was slope is 9 and the y-intercept is 8, which is 0, 8. All right, number 7, decide if the function is linear. Is this one going to look like a? It is? Could you draw it by hand if you had to? Yes, tell me what you would do. This ain't only, I'm going to always add extra stuff to the study guide when I start talking about it. How would you grab this by hand if you had to? Put a point where first? On 9. On the y-intercept. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Put a point on the y-intercept first and then go up. So turn the slope into a fraction and go up 1, 2, 3, 4 and over 1, and there's your line. So if you had to draw it by hand, that's what you would be doing.
You can use Desmos for that?
For that one, if you had to draw it, I would not. I want you to see if you can do the, because again, all we had to do was put our point on 9 and go rise and run. So I would be looking to see if you know to do that. So typing in Desmos wouldn't force you to do that. But could you use it for Desmos? Sure, you could. All right, number 8, find the slope of the line through the pair of points that you see. You got 2 points. What should you do if they gave you 2 points? Are you going to be expected to know that formula? Yes. Yes, you are. So here are the three formulas, or the three things that are most important for you to remember. This one, and this one. Somebody asked me, were we allowed to have notes? Those are the only three formulas you need. Those you're expected to know. Those three. Because you'll use them throughout the whole entire test. Alrighty, so with that said, which one of these three formulas do I need for those 2 points? The second one, which is called the what formula? It's the slope formula. Alright, so I'm just going to plug them in. Should I label my points? Yes, I'm going to label them. This is x1, y1. And then my second point is -5, 6 is going to be x2. x2, y2. And I'm just going to plug them in. Alright, ready? So I'm going to do m is equal to 6 minus a -3. Okay? On the bottom, I'm going to do x2, which is -5, and x1 is a 7, so that's -5 minus 7. Now we're just going to do the math. Alright, what happens when you got a negative up here up top? So that's going to be 6 plus 3. And on the bottom, what should I have? -12, alrighty. And so now simplify, I got 6 plus 3 is 9 over -12. Can I simplify 9 over 12?
Yes.
What divides into both of them? 3. So divide top and bottom by 3. And my final answer is going to be a negative, what? 3 over 4. Now again, how much work do you need to show me on the paper? All I need is if you put this in here and say it's equal to -3 over 4, it's good to me. I know what you did. The question is, if for some reason you did the math incorrectly here, I can see what you did up to this point. Somewhere you would have made a careless error on the calculator if I don't see the rest of this work. So it's up to you to decide how much work you want to put on the scratch paper. Is all of this extra I did down here required? No. Long as I can see what you did. If you make a mistake somewhere in here, I won't know it unless you write it. So just saying, if you know the answer's right, you ain't got to do all the extra work. Just put enough so that I know what you did. Alrighty, so that answer was -3 over 4 for number 8. Alright, number 9. This says find the slope of the line and the y-intercept. Do you know the slope just by looking at that equation? It says 3x minus 9y equals -18. Do you know the slope just by looking at that equation? No, you can't. Why?
Because it's not y equals mx plus b.
It's not in y equals mx plus b form. Why not by itself? So what you got to go do?
Gotta plug in z.
You got to go, what? We going to get y by itself? Yeah, solve for y and get y by itself. Solve for y and get y by itself mean the same thing. So I've got 3x minus 9y equals -18. Subtract 3x from both sides. Let me get another marker that writes better. Subtract 3x from both sides. Okay, I hear you. Okay. Okay, so we had -9y on the left equals -3x minus 18 on the right. Divide everything by -9 on both sides. Y is equal to, can I simplify these fractions over here on the right? So that's negative divided by negative. That's going to be a positive what? 1/3. How do I get 1/3?
Because 3 goes into 9.
We divide both of them by 3?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then 9 goes in 18 evenly, right? So that's going to be a 2? All righty. Done. Now tell me, what's the slope?
1/3.
And what's the y-intercept? 2. And they wrote it in ordered pair form. So what's the y-intercept in ordered pair form? 0, 2. Okay. All righty. Questions? So far, the test look easy, don't it? Y'all grunting. I didn't hear a yes. Okay, number 10. Number 10 is interesting. Why?
That's for the rate of change.
It's asking you for the rate of change. What's another word for rate of change? Slope. Did they write it in y equals mx plus b form?
Yes.
Yes, it's just kind of, they switch the MX and the B around. So what's the slope? And what's the Y-intercept? 700. Okay. Notice they put two answers here that you can look at and be like, oh, the answer's 700. Because they put the 700 first. Don't let that throw you off. So -6 is your slope. So with that one, if you want to rewrite it so that you got it in the proper MX plus B form, it would be written as -6x plus 700. Now you can see you got the slope is -6. You can rewrite it with the -6 plus 700 in the proper order. Alrighty, that was number 10. The answer is B. Here's number 11. The relationship between the number of units sold by a company and the profit is linear. 5 units sold results in $110 profit. 37 units sold results in $814 in profit. Find the marginal profit. What does marginal profit mean? What's another word? Slope. Rate of change, slope, marginal profit. All mean the same thing. So, do you have 2 points? Yes, you do. You have some points. Tell me what your points are. So if you plug in a 5, remember there's your washer dryer thing going on. If you plug in a 5, what's going to come out? 110. 110. And if you plug in a 37, what comes out? 814. You got 2 points. Here's my X and my Y's. So I've got 5, 110. And I've got 37, 814. Am I just going to put those into Y2 minus Y1? Yes. Over X? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. So that's going to be X1 up top here, my X2, Y2 down here. So I'm going to have 814 minus 110 divided by 37 minus 5. Now if we just do the math and make your calculator your friend, guys. Don't try to do everything in your head if you don't really want to. Use your calculator. 700, what is that, 700? 04? Okay. Divided by 32. All right. 22. All right. What does that mean in English? Well, were these dollars? Yes. These two numbers on top, were they dollars? Yes. Yes, this is dollars, and this was what? Units sold, right? Mm-hmm. So this is $22 per what? Units sold. Why can't A be the answer? You ain't made no, it's negative $22 every time you sell something, you lose some money? Okay, so we know that. So that's another thing to kind of think about when you are looking at what your answer choices are. There should be some answers that you know ain't the right answer, that you should automatically cross those out. All right, number 12, write an equation of a line with the given condition. You got a point and an equation, and they want a parallel line. Type 1, type 2, or type 3? Which type of situation is this? Type 3. It's type 3. They gave you a point and an equation. What's the first thing you got to do when they give you a point and an equation? The word rewrite. Rewrite what? Rewrite the equation so that y is by itself. So that's step 1. Rewrite the equation so y is by itself. So I got 2x plus y equals 4. Subtract 2x from both sides. Okay, so that was step 1. Rewrite the equation. Rewrite the equation. This is in your notes from what we've done this before. So now I end up with y on the left and negative 2x plus 4. Do I have y by itself? Why did I need this? So I could find the slope. Okay, so you needed this so that the slope is equal to what now? Negative 2. Why I need the slope? So I can plug it into what? Okay, so rewrite the equation so you can find the slope. We found the slope, so m is your slope. And we did this so we could do step 2. What's step 2? Y minus Y1 equals M times X minus X1. What's this called? The point what?
Point slope points.
Point slope formula. What you gotta plug into the point slope formula?
The slope.
A point and a slope. What did they give us a point? Okay, so we put, what was the point they gave us?
5 and 2.
5, comma 2. So here's my X1 and my Y1. So I'm literally gonna plug those three numbers in. So step 2, plug the numbers in, M, X1 and Y1 into the point slope formula. So I'm literally gonna plug those in. So this is gonna be a 2 for my Y1, a 5 for my X1, and a -2 for the slope. Everything else stayed right where it was. Now I'm just gonna simplify and get Y by itself. Should I distribute the -2 by that parentheses? Yes, I should. So -2 times X and -2 times -5. So that's gonna be -2X plus 10. Alrighty. Do what to both sides? Add 2. Y equals -2X plus 12. Done. That's your equation. Now question, what kind of line was I looking for? Parallel or perpendicular? So did my slope need to stay just like it was? Yes. Yes. Why does the slope stay just what it was? Why didn't I change my slope? Because it's parallel. What if it had asked me for a perpendicular line? Then what would we have done? We would have flipped that slope upside down and changed the sign if it had said perpendicular slope. Okay, and then we would have followed the same process. Alrighty, questions? Alrighty, number 13. I didn't intend for number 13 to be as easy as it is. Why is 13 so easy? All the bottom numbers already are the same. So you didn't have to do anything to the bottom numbers. So the goal, whenever you have the numbers on the bottom, are you supposed to make them all be the same? Yes. And then what you're supposed to do after they are all the denominators are the same? Delete them. So we learned that was just an easier way of doing that is when you have this is an equation with denominators. It's got fractions in it. What do? When all the denominators are the same, we can delete them. And it just so happens that this one already got denominators that are all the same, so we don't need them. In the other situations, you had to make the denominators the same, didn't you? Yes, and then you can delete them. So now we don't even need the denominators. What's left on top?
6X plus 7 plus 3 equals 4.
And my goal now is to get X by itself. Alrighty. So I've got over here, I'm going to go ahead and add the 7 and the 3 together. That's going to make what? 10. Alrighty. Subtract 10 from both sides? Or should I minus 6 from both sides? Okay, minus 6X. And I should have said minus 6X. Minus 6X from both sides. So the 6X minus 6X on the left cancels out. And I end up with 10 on the left is equal to negative 10X. Divide both sides by negative 10. So X is equal to, wait, negative 1. Thank you. X is equal to negative 1. That is the work that I would expect to see on your paper. Yes?
So I went the wrong way around it, but then right here I cross multiplied. If the denominator had been different, could it still cross multiplied?
Hold on. Yes.
I did get it.
Yes. You
Okay.
could have. You could have. Yes, you could have. Okay. All right. Number 19. Number 19 is pretty much just like the one we just did because it doesn't have denominators anyway, right? Number 14. I'm sorry. Number 14. I saw a number 19 and just said 19 is a 14. All right. Let me push this one up so we can do the next one. All righty. Tell me what I should do first with number 14. Do what to both sides? You said subtract 7t or subtract 19. Which one you want to do?
7.
Subtract 7t from both sides?
So it doesn't matter then?
Nope. Just as long as you get t by itself. It don't matter if t is on the left or on the right. Your choice.
Okay.
All right, so the 17 minus 7t cancels. So on the left I have, what's that, 12t? Minus 47 equals negative 15. Is that right?
Right.
Add what to both sides?
47.
Add 47 to both sides. So that's going to be 12t is equal to, what is that, 32?
You have to divide that.
Divide both sides by 12. So t is equal to 32 over 12. Is that my final answer?
No.
No, because they're even numbers. What's the biggest number, which is called the greatest common factor, that goes into 32 and 12? 4. So divide both top and bottom by 4. And I should get 8 over. So 8/3 is the answer for number 14. Here's 15. Hold on. Can y'all see better like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. So with 15, is there any real work for 15?
No.
Okay, let's see. It says it costs $29 per hour plus a flat fee of $17 for a plumber to make a house call. What's the equation in y equals mx plus b form? How you know where the x go? Where you see the word per, better have an x sitting beside it. It is the rate of change, which is the same thing as the slope. So what's the answer? Which one?
C.
C is the answer. Okay, alrighty. Number 16. Where you see the word per, you better put an X. Alrighty, so number 16. You got, write the slope-intercept form of the equation for the line passing through the given pair of points. Type 1, type 2, or type 3? Type 2, they gave you 2 points, so it's type 2. So for type 2, what you got to go do first for type 2? Go calculate the slope. Let's go calculate the slope. Alrighty, so we are calculating the slope. Here it is. Alright, slope is going to be, what am I going to do? Negative 3 minus 5. Let's write this in black, hold on. Negative 3 minus 5 over what? 0 minus 9. That's my slope. This is for number 16. So now let's finish it. Negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. Over 0 minus 9 is negative 9. So that simplifies to positive 8 over 9. All right, so my slope is 8 over 9. I'm trying to write an equation. Well, if I know the slope, I can tell by now what my answer gonna be. Can you tell what your answer gonna be? It's going to be y equals mx plus b form, correct? Well, what's m? 8 over 9. So right now you can already see that the answer should be b. That's the only one that got 8 over 9 x in the front. You were asking me a question. What was it? Okay, you got it? What? Y'all, this negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. You're questioning that's being negative 8? Is that what you're questioning? Right. Use your calculator. I'm saying, no, try it. I want you. Oh, you did. Oh, gotcha. I wasn't sure which one. But try it on the calculator to make sure I didn't make a mistake up here, because I do make mistakes when I'm up here. But if you are concerned that doesn't look right, try it on the calculator and see if it comes out.
Shouldn't it be 5 negative 3?
Shouldn't it be 5 negative 3? It depends on how you label them. I labeled the first one. It depends on how you label them. When you say, again, here's 9 comma 5 and 0 comma negative 3. So I'm just putting them in the order that I labeled them. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. All right, so there's Y2 right here. There's Y1 right there.
Minus negative
5. So you did y1. You did it the other way. You did y1 minus y2. And then you have to do x1 minus x2. If you're going to choose to do it that way, make sure you keep it consistent.
I just used the calculator though, it came out right.
It's going to be, here's what I'm saying to you. I'm saying this. Guys, if you didn't know this, here's what we usually do. Y2, well, I'm going to write the y right there. It's m. I'm just saying this so you know either way works. Do you know that you'll get the same answer if you do y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2? You're going to get the same answer. Doesn't matter as long as you can stay consistent. If you're going to start with y2, you got to start with x2 on the bottom. If you're going to start with y1, you got to start with x1 on the bottom. Just stay consistent. But you will get the same answer. Alrighty, so did we finish the problem yet? No, we just guessed that we think we know the answer already, right? So we need to finish it just in case we made a mistake and this ain't the right slope. We want to go ahead and finish it. So to finish it, what am I going to do? Remember, this is a type 2 situation, so I need the point slope formula. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Alrighty, so I've got y minus 5. Say it again. I'm still on the same problem because we ain't created the equation yet. We guess what we think the answer is. We right, but we want to make sure. We're right, so I'm going to plug in. The slope was 8 over 9. Does it matter which one of these points I plugged in is x1, y1? No, it's up to you. You could have, really, I would have probably felt like doing the 0 because it's going to make my answer easy to work with. So again, I've got x minus 9 here. Alrighty. So y minus 5 equals, now distribute your 8 over 9 to both everything inside. So I've got 8 over 9 times x minus 8 over 9 times 9. That's a times sign, put a 1 underneath there. So now I end up with, on the left, y minus 5. I still got my 8 over 9x minus. I'm going to multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. You don't have to do it this way. You can see that 9 and 9 cancel out and you end up with 8. You're going to get the same thing if you do 8 times 9 is 72 over 9. What's 72 divided by 9? 8. That step is not needed if you don't want to do it that way. Add 5 to both sides. And y is equal to 8 over 9x minus 3, which is what we said the answer was going to be. All right. That was 16. 17 is going to require you to do the same kind of work we just did. Only, it's what type? Number 17 is type what? It's a perpendicular one, so we're doing type 1, type 2, or type 3 type situation. What did they give you? You got an equation and a point. What type situation is that? Clearly it's type what? 3. Type 3. You got an equation and a point. So it's a type 3. So I'm going to still go do what first when you got type 3? What you supposed to do first? Get the y by itself. So you got to go rewrite the equation, getting y by itself. So that's negative 4x plus y equals, what is that, 3? Add 4x to both sides. And so you end up with y is equal to 4x plus 3. What's my slope? 4. Okay, so the slope is 4. Put a 1 underneath it. Why am I going to put a 1 underneath it? Because I need the perpendicular line, so I got to flip it upside down and change the sign. So I need a new slope, right? My new slope is negative 1 over 4. Now, do I have enough information to use my y minus y1 formula? Yes, you do. So we're just going to go plug everything in that we know. So my slope is negative 1, 4. And my point that they gave us is what? 2 and 4? All right, so my point is 2, 4. So that's my x1 and my y1. All righty, so that's going to be a 4 here. Equals, and I'm going to have a 2 over here. All right, I've just plugged in my x1, y1, and my m. Alrighty, let's do some math now. Alright, distribute the negative 1/4 to everything in the parentheses. So you got negative 1/4 x and a negative 1/4 times a negative 2. I'll put a 1 underneath that negative 2. So I've got a negative 1/4 over here on the right times x. Multiply across the top and across the bottom. So that's going to be a negative, and a negative is going to make that a positive 2/4. Can I simplify negative 2 over, excuse me, a positive 2/4? Can I simplify it? Make it 1/2?
Yes.
Okay. So now on the left, I've got y minus 4 equals negative 1/4 x plus a half. Add 4 to both sides? Okay. So my final answer should be close. Negative 1/4 x, y equals negative 1/4 x. Now you got a fraction and a whole number. How do I add a fraction and a whole number? Find the least common denominator. Okay, so that's going to be a 2. Multiply top and bottom by a 2. So that's going to be 1/2 plus 8/2, which is 9/2. So this is the number that goes right here. So plus 9/2. Is that my answer that's on the board? So I've got a negative 1/4 x plus 9/2, which is answer choice B?
C.
B or C?
B.
It's plus 9/2, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it would be B would be the answer? Yes, question.
You're not going over it again, but why did you put, the fraction again?
Why did I change this part to a fraction?
No, go back. Yeah, why did you put, for the slope little before, why did you put 4/1?
Because it asks for a perpendicular. So if you see that word perpendicular, you got to flip the slope upside down and change the sign. Every time you see the word perpendicular. Because you can't use the old slope. Which is the old slope? You need a new slope if it asks you for a perpendicular.
So with X, when it always asks you perpendicular, you want to put it over 1 and then flip it and then change the sign.
Yeah, and the only reason we had to put it on the 1 is because our slope was a whole number. What if my slope was already 2/3?
Just flip.
Then you just flip it upside down and change the sign. So the only time you put a 1 on it if they don't give you a fraction already. Alrighty, so number 18, suppose the sales of a particular brand of appliance satisfies the relationship S of X. They use S because it's sales. S of X is equal to 80X plus 3,600, where S of X represents the number of sales in year X. So X equals 0 means 2010. See where it says corresponding? X equals 0 means 2010. So what would X equal 1 mean? And X equal 2? X equal 3? 2013. So you see what you're doing now. Okay, so just making sure X is all the numbers after 2010. All right, in what year would the sales be 4,320? All right, switching boards. Should we read the problem?
Yes.
Okay, we're talking about the sales of a brand of appliance. Don't matter what it is. It could be refrigerators, it could be stoves, it doesn't matter. But we're selling appliances. Don't you make money according to how many you sell?
Yes.
Okay, so the S represents the number of sales, and the year represents X. The year after 2010. We're talking about the year starting from 2010. Okay, so we're trying to figure out what our sales were beginning around 2010 for whatever appliance. So we read the problem. Do you understand the topic?
Yes.
Okay, what did they give you? They gave you an equation. What's X?
X is the number of years after 2010.
Number of years after, it don't say that, but that's what it means, a number of years after 2010, because we're starting with 2010. I could say the number of years, and I could say starting, at 2010, which would still make it 0. That's where they got the X equals 0 from. Alrighty, Y, is there a Y?
Yep.
Yes, what's the thing that they're using in the place of the Y?
36.
Okay, now you gave me part of that, but what's the S of X? That's the equation. Can I call F of S, S of X, W of X, P of X, Q of X, isn't that the same thing as Y?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just saying that in this case, Y is the number of, that's the same thing as S of X, let's write that there. And that's the number of what? Number of sales. Alrighty, and again, they gave us the equation. So we know the equation S of X is equal to, where is it? 80X plus what? 3,600. And in the very last question, did they give you a number?
Yes.
All right. In what year would the sales be 4320? Is the 4320 X or Y? Is it an input or output? It's output. So what am I? Is this considered output, the S of X? Yes, it is. So replace this with. Remember, I'm saying this is Y. Remember, S of X and Y mean the same thing.
Oh,
When they give you a number, you got to decide, is that an X or Y? Is it input or output? If it's input, you're going to plug it in the place of the X. If it's output, you're going to put it in the place of whatever this is. So I'm going to replace that Y with 4320 and then solve and get what? X by itself. So I'm going to subtract 3,600 from both sides. And I end up with what? 720 equals 80x. Divide both sides by 80. So x is equal to 9. So is that my answer? 9 years. In the year 9.
No. We added 17.
Aha, we got to go back and add it to 2010. So that means in the year 2019, the sales were 4,320 appliances. Number 19 just says get y by itself, solve for y, get y by itself. Minus 6x on both sides. So you end up with 9y is equal to negative 6x plus 17. Divide everything on both sides by 9. Y equals negative 6x over 9 plus 17 over 9. Can I simplify 6 over 9? Yes. What number goes into both 6 and 9? 3. So divide both of them by 3. So I get what? A negative 2 over 3x plus 17. So you divided both of this by 3 and divide that by 3. Alrighty. Bless you.
thank you. Thank you.
Whoops. Whoops. Page down to number 20. All right. Number 20 is at the bottom of the screen. It says find the zero. Now, quick question. When it says find the zero, do you plug in the zero or set it equal to 0? Say set it equal to 0. Okay? So, in this particular case, let me erase where I can erase over here. Set it equal to 0. Set the equation equal to 0. So 6x plus 12. Set it equal to 0. So I've got 6x plus 12 equals 0. Solve and get x by itself. Subtract 12 from both sides. So 6x is equal to negative 12. Divide by 6 on both sides. X equals negative 2. Set it equal to 0. And solve and get x by itself. $21, is that a linear function? Yes, you could use Desmos. Type it in and see if it looks like a linear function, or you just get y by itself and see if it looks like a y equals mx plus b equation. Okay. Number 22, it's a verbal statement, and I want to know if that's a fraction. Remember, that's one of the first things we talked about in the first section. You got the balance B in your checking account on any given day. Is that a function?
No.
Why?
Because you can check your account
Multiple times a day, and it did not specify that you could check it just at 5 p.m. You had to give me a time in order for it to be a function. So that is not a function. 23, is 23 a function? The balance in the checking account be at the close of business on a given day? Yes, because now I'm telling you, you can't check your account balance unless it's the end of the day at 5 p.m.
So any given day and close of the day, the terminology.
You got to specify a time. The first one, they don't give you no time. It just tells you whenever during the day. You notice the second one gives you a specific time of day, which gives you a restriction on when you can check your balance. Number 24, it actually wants the domain and the range. What would you do with these points? Let me make it big so we can see it. All righty. Can you label the points? Yes, all right. How many points that you see? Okay, on the farthest to the left, what's the first point the farthest to the left?
Negative 6, 4.
Negative 6, 4. Okay, what's the next one?
Negative 4, negative 2.
Okay, negative 4, negative 2. Next one?
Negative 2, negative 1.
Negative 2, negative 1. Next?
2, 3.
2, 3.
4, 6.
4, 6. And last one?
6, negative 4.
6, negative 4. What did it ask you for?
Domain range.
It asked you for the what again?
Domain range.
The domain or all the what values?
X.
And the range of all the? Okay, so here's all my domain. And the other numbers are all of my range.
Where's the negative 6, the first one? You said negative 6.
So to get to that point at the top,
Oh,
over
okay.
to the left, negative 6, and up 4 to get to that point. So you got to label each one of those points. So you got to decide, start in the center and move whatever direction you got to go
And then
up.
count up 4.
Yes,
That's how you get it.
that's how you label these right here.
Okay.
Number 25, you see a chart? It shows the number of meals served in a restaurant during each of the past 4 months. Assume that the information in the chart defines a function, naming, we're calling the function name G. State the domain of the function. What's the domain? January, February, March, April. Done. Y'all get that wrong, I'm gonna be mad. They didn't even ask you for the range. Mm-hmm.
And the domain is the input.
Correct, which is the month. And then, of course, your output is the number of meals, which is your second number. So in January, they served 3,500 meals. February, they served, so again, input, output. All right, that was 25. 26, can you graph it by hand? Put a point on what first? On the y-axis on 2, and then go up 3 and over 1. Which graph does that?
You can't use decimals for that?
Some of them you will be. This one definitely might be one that you would use decimals for. But I said up, up 3 and over 1. So you put your first point on 2.
Why over 1?
Because the slope is 3 and you got to turn it into a fraction. You got to turn your slope into a fraction if it's not a fraction, so that you can do rise over run. Can't do rise over run unless you got a fraction. So if it ain't a fraction, turn it into a fraction. So put a point on 2 and go up 3 and right 1. Okay? All right, next one. I still got a little bit of time left, right? Okay. All right, the next one wants you to find the X and Y-Intercepts. Here's one that you could use the graphing tool for. Let me shrink my screen so I can see where my problem is. There it is. All righty, Y equals, no, that's not the right one. I'm looking for 27. Sometimes when I stretch my screen a little bit too much, it doesn't want to go where I want it to go. All right, there's the equation at the bottom of the screen. Let me make it bigger at the bottom here. It wants to know the X and Y-intercepts. Type it in Desmos if given that opportunity. Type it in Desmos and see where it crosses the X and the Y. How do you do it manually? Okay, so set Y equal to 0, and over here set X equal to 0. So you're going to get X by itself. Get X by itself. Over here you're going to get Y by itself. Okay, so if I do that, I'm going to have Y equals 0, so that's going to be 9 times 0 minus 3x equals negative 6. So 9 times 0 is 0, right? So that's gone. Negative 3x equals negative 6. Divide both sides by negative 3. So x equals 2. So my x-intercept is 2. Over here, I'm going to set my y equal to 0. So I'm going to do 9y equals, 9y minus, not equals, 9y minus 3 times 0 equals negative 6. All right, 3 times 0 is nothing. It's 0. So I end up with 9y on the left side equals negative 6. Divide both sides by 9. Y equals negative 6 over 9, which can be simplified because I can divide top and bottom by 3. So y equals negative 2 over 3. Divide top and bottom by negative 3, by positive 3 that you saw there. So we're looking for the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So if we look at my answer choices, which one says x is 2 and y is negative 2/3? C. That's how you would do that one by hand. All right, that's the end of that one. And we only got 4 questions to look at on the second set, just to make sure you're comfortable with what you see. I'm trying to see if there's one that I would throw out. Number 2, throw number 2 out. I'm not going to give you anything like number 2, not yet. Throw out number 2. Let's look at number 1. Number 1 says the mathematical model, which is the equation, C equals 400x plus 60,000, represents the cost in dollars a company has in manufacturing certain X items during a month. How many items were produced if the cost reached 380,000? Now, we read the problem. What did they give you?
An equation.
They gave you an equation. What's my equation?
C equals 400x plus 6.
What else did they give you?
380,000.
They gave you 380,000. Is that an X or a Y? A Y. So in this case, we're calling the Y the cost. It's the C. The cost is the same thing that got cost. It's really a Y. So I'm going to replace that with what? 380,000. What do I need to do now? Go solve and get what? X by itself. So I'm going to what? Subtract 60,000 from both sides. And so I got 400x. What is that? 320? Whoops, that's being read. All right, I got 320,000 divided by 400 on each side. How much money is that?
800.
Or how much is the X value?
800.
800. Let's see, that one was that one. Yeah. 800 items. So the way to read that, it says how many items were produced if their cost reached 380,000. They actually manufactured 800 of them, and it cost them $380,000. I don't know what they were selling or what they were manufacturing. Okay, maybe it was appliances. I wouldn't say cars, because I think it'd be a whole lot more money than that if you would produce 800 cars. So, alrighty. Skip number 2. Number 3 just wants you to read it and interpret it. The population of a small town can be modeled by the function P, YP, Population is equal to negative 32t plus 13,500, where t is the number of years since, which means after, 2010. Interpret the p-intercept of the graph. So, instead of using x and y, what did they use? T and p. X is t, y is p. So, what do they want? The y-intercept or the x-intercept? The y-intercept. Alrighty, is that written in y equals mx plus b form?
Yes.
Look at it, it is. In the place of the p, I will put a what? A y. And in the place of the x, and in the place of the t, what would I put? Put an x. And I'm just going to rewrite this baby. There we go. Is this in y equals mx plus b form? It said, what's the y-intercept? What is the y-intercept? Yeah, remember, in y equals mx plus b form, the b is always the y-intercept. In this case, they're calling it the c-intercept. And last one, number 4, it's very much like number 1. It's not a whole lot different than number 1. Number 1 give you a y. What does number 4 give you? You got an equation, and what's the last sentence say? So did they give you an x or a y? They gave you an x. So instead of plugging in a y this time, you're going to plug in the... So in the place of the x, I'm going to put what number? 500. Alrighty? So here's my equation. C of x is equal to 200x plus 50,000. And they said x equals what? So everywhere there is an x, I'm going to put a 500. And then I'm just going to do the math on my calculator. Your calculator is your friend. Alrighty, so now that's going to be, what's 200 times 500? Is that 100,000? Should be 4 zeros. Wait, let me make sure I got the right number of zeros. Yeah, I do. So is that 100,000?
Yes.
Okay, plus 50,000 is 150,000. So, how much is?
No, that one is in the y-x equals b.
It's in the y equals mx plus b form as well. So in this case, we plugged in the x. In the previous case, we plugged in the y.
Okay.
Got it? All right, that's it. So now what should you go do? Study the study guide. Everything that we did today, you got to be able to do it by yourself. So go back. Even if you need to go back and listen to this, go to the part. You got to listen to the whole thing. Skip to the part that you need to hear. If you're going to actually listen to it, so let me go ahead and stop it so that...